Good morning. And welcome to worship this morning. My name is Adam Hildebrand, and I get to be one of the pastors here at LVfirst. Such a joy to be in worship with all of you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're here in person or you're online with us, we're just excited to be together. And this is a special Sunday. We're so excited to have the opportunity to celebrate, to honor, to bless our educators and people who are involved in our schools, because they do so much throughout the year. They love our kids so well, and we just want them to know that we're with them no matter what. We'll have some time at the end, but before I get into anything else, I just want to recognize some special folks who are here today. Here at the church, we have something called Kids Crossing Learning Center, and I don't know if you know about KCLC, but it is a fantastic program, serves our community in amazing ways, and all of our KCLC teachers are here, so would you say thank you to them for what they do? I like when things kind of like come together, because so many of the kids in our Kids Crossing Learning Center are children of educators, and so lots of crossover there. We've got lots of kids who are kids of teachers and people who are involved in the school system, and so just lots of things connecting the dots there today. So grateful for them and all the work that they do, and we'll have a time again of blessing of all of our teachers in a few minutes at the end of this. If you're new with us this morning, thanks for being here. We'd love to get to know you a little bit. We'd love to hear some of your story and have an opportunity to share some of ours and what we're all about here at LVfirst. I hope you're getting a little bit of a sense of that here this morning, what we're all about here, because I think there's some special things happening in this place, and God's up to something here in this church and in this community, and I'd love for you to be a part of that and connect with that in some way. We had a great time of celebration on Friday night here, our second Summer Serve celebration. Lots of folks here, and we got to have a good time together and laugh together. We had so much fun that the lights went out at one point, which is always enjoyable, and so it was just a great time. Thank you for those of you who were able to be here, and for those of you who weren't but serve in meaningful ways each and every week here at the church. Thank you. We didn't get to say thank you to you directly on Friday night if you weren't there, but thank you. You do so many things in so many places, and it's making a difference in the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the Olympics is happening. Maybe you've heard about this Olympic thing that's taken place, started on Friday. It really started a couple days before that. We had some events that happened before Friday, but kind of kicked off on Friday. And it's just 2 weeks of nonstop sports action in which 10,500 athletes from all around the world will compete in 40 different sports through 329 different events. Now, if that's not impressive, this year, with all of the different broadcasts, with all of the different opportunities to watch all of the different sports in all sorts of different languages, with all sorts of different commentators, they're broadcasting 350,000 hours of Olympic coverage. That's amazing. That's a lot of hours of watching sports. That might even be a lot for me. But don't forget that this year you have options in terms of what you're going to be watching and how you're going to be watching it. There's one channel where you can have Snoop Dogg as your commentator, which who doesn't want Snoop Dogg to commentate the Olympics? I'm here for that. I'm pretty excited about that. And then there's another option where you can actually, they're hooking up the parents of the athletes to heart rate monitors. And you can watch the heart rate of the parents of the people competing in the events live on the screen, which, after coaching my kids in some athletic events, I can tell you every once in a while my heart rate got a little escalated. And by that, I mean, I thought I was going to die of a heart attack all the time as I'm yelling at my kids to do what they're supposed to be doing. Anyway, I just think there's so many options. It's so neat this year to be able to have all of those different options. And so athletes from all sorts of different sports and events come together in this place. Swimmers and gymnasts and basketball players and even breakdancers, right? Break dancing is a sport this year, which makes me kind of sad that I gave up my robot when I was a kid. Like I could have been something, could have been somebody, could have won a gold medal. But all of these athletes in all of the different sports are all competing to take home just north of 1,000 medals at the Olympic Games. 329 gold medals, 329 silver medals, 329 bronze medals. And this year they've got this unique thing going in Paris where each medal has a piece of the Eiffel Tower embedded in it, which I think is special and unique. But all of these athletes have a very clear picture of what winning looks like. It looks like standing on a podium and having one of these medals put around your neck and hearing your national anthem played. They have an incredibly clear picture of what winning looks like. But only about 0.00003% of all people in the world will ever have an opportunity to experience that sort of winning. Which begs the question, what does it mean for us to be in it to win it? Because sometimes we don't have a clear picture of what it looks like to be successful, of what it looks like to actually win in life. Most of us will never win a gold medal. I'm past my breakdancing prime, I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. It got added to the Olympics too late for me. But we can win in life in lots of different ways. We can win in life by following what Jesus invites each and every one of us into. We can win as a church in some really unique ways that I think invite us to think about the world differently. Because here's something fascinating about the Olympics. Social scientists, they watched over the years and they saw how different people responded when they would win. Of course, the gold medalists would get up there. They'd be very excited. They'd get the gold medal. They were pleased. Everybody saw the big smile. But then they would put the medal to the silver medalist. And social scientists started to notice that they responded differently than the gold medalist did. They didn't look nearly as happy as maybe somebody who's the second best at something in the whole wide world should be. But then the more unique thing is that when they'd put the bronze medal on the bronze medalist, the third best person at whatever in the whole wide world, they seemed so much happier than the silver medalist. And so they began to study this and try to figure out why this was the case. And they found that to be true, that the gold medalist was by far, in a way, the happiest. The bronze medalists were the second happiest, and the silver medalists were the least happy with the way that they had performed, with the way that things had gone. And what they found is that this not only began to define the way that they felt about those Olympic Games, but it began to define how they saw their life. Because they began to see all of their world through a certain lens, through a certain perspective. See, the gold medalists had won. They'd done what they needed to do. The silver medalists, the way that they saw their world was in reference to not being enough. All they could think about was what they had lost. That they had lost by this many seconds or this many points or this many fractions of whatever. All they could think about, their whole perspective, was about what they didn't do. And then the bronze medalist, they were able to see their world in terms of what they had gained, what they had won. Because the person that they most compared themselves to is the next person who didn't get a podium. They didn't even get a medal. They spent their whole life training and they finished fourth. That's rough. And so they began to use these words to describe silver medalists and bronze medalists. That silver medalists would use what's called loss framing. They only look at what they've lost. But bronze medalists would think about it in terms of gain framing, what they had gained in the world. Now, for many of us, we are competitive by nature. Like, I love to win. I love to win. I love to win. In fact, I took a personality test a number of years ago called StrengthsFinder, and one of my top 5 strengths is competition. Not compassion, competition, which I don't know that, like, I just wanted to make sure you heard me. I don't know that that's a good thing for a pastor, but competition is like, I love to win. I love to win in games. I love to win in life. I love to win. I'm not the guy who lets my kids win ever. In fact, me and my youngest son were watching the Mighty Ducks the other day, and the only thing that I could remember from the Mighty Ducks weren't the great moral lessons. It was what the kind of the mean team chanted. It's not worth winning if you can't win big. Right? That was the lesson that I took away from the Mighty Ducks, okay? Like, I don't know that was the lesson, but that was my lesson. That's the only thing that flying V, whatever. It's not worth winning if you can't win big. I don't know that is gain framing necessarily. I don't know that counts in that. I think the thing that I'm constantly reminded of is that Jesus reframes all of our reality for us. Jesus begins to reframe what it means to win and what it means to lose, what it means to gain and what it means to give up. In Luke chapter 9, Jesus has just spent some time with his disciples, and his disciples realize that he is unique and special. They say, Jesus, you're the Messiah. You're the one. You're the person who came to set the world free, who came to make everything right. You're the one. And almost immediately after that conversation, Jesus looks at his disciples and he says this to them. In Luke chapter 9, verse 23, then he said to them all, if any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. Take up their cross daily and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will save it. What does it profit them if they gain the whole world but lose or forfeit themselves, their very being, their souls? Jesus begins to ask these very important questions to his disciples, to his followers, and to each and every one of us. What does it mean to win? What does winning really look like? What does it mean to gain? What does it mean to save our life? Because that's what we're all going for. That's what we all want. Jesus invites us to really think about what does loss and gain framing look like in the context of our realities, in terms of how we relate to Jesus and how we relate to one another. Because I think Jesus changes our loss framing into gain framing. As we begin this new school year, as we begin this new season of ministry together, the question that we have to ask is, what's the win? What does it look like to be in it to win it? For each of us individually, but also for us as a church, and for us as a larger entity in this community. What does it mean to be in it to win it together? Does it just mean to get straight A's? Is that the win for our kids? Does it mean making the team? Does it mean that our kids succeed in those standardized tests that we have to get them through every year? Does it mean that we survive until Labor Day? Or fall break, or whatever that next break is that's coming up? Because there's got to be a better win than just making it through. And I talked to so many people. This last week, I had lots of conversations with lots of teachers because I've been in lots of different schools this week, just celebrating them and cheering them on, and I'll talk to people and say, oh, yeah, we have to go back to work. I like the way John Gordon, the author, reframes this idea of have to. He says that instead of asking what we have to do, maybe we ought to think about what we get to do each and every day. Because I say I have to do things all the time. I'll be like, oh man, I have to do this or I have to do that. I got to send this email. I got to write this thing. I have to do this. Man, I get to be a part of something that's bigger than me. I get to be a part of an organization, of a church that loves people well. I get to be a person who shows up for others when things are difficult. But that's going to mean that I've got to do something different. I've got to give something up. I've got to lay something down so that I can pick up the cross. Now, our educators know what this means, right? I mean, our educators have to pick up a heavy burden and carry it. They've got all of these kids and they're invested in all of their lives, so much so that they've invested portions of themselves. They're buying school supplies and making sure that everything is taken care of out of their own funds. They know what it is to lay something down and carry a cross. And in order to truly support them, in order to come around them, in order to come around our community, it's going to take us realizing that we all need to lay something down, that we all have to pick up a cross, that we all have to do something different than what we have done. We've all got to lose a little bit so that something more can be gained. If we want to be in it to win it, we've all got to do this. And for some of us, it's as simple as our hurried lives. Some of us look at our calendar. Michelle and I, my wife Michelle and I, we sat down this week and we're talking about calendar and all of the things that we've got coming up. They've got all these back to school activities and we got to go to all these different open houses and we're doing stuff in the community and I've got to show up at this school and that school and she's got to take kids here and there and then we've got to meet in the middle somewhere so that we can get these people here and there's too many people and not enough cars. There's too many lines on the calendar. And sometimes we accidentally mistake our busyness for winning. Sometimes we think that what it means to win in life is just to have a ton of things to do. But I meet lots of people, and I'm guilty of this myself at times, that I've got a full schedule and an empty heart. I think if I can just do more things, if I can just fit more things in, then I'll get a gold medal for being the busiest in the world. That I can somehow show you my calendar, and when you ask me, how are things going, I'll get to say busy. Like that's the gold medal. But in order to truly win, in order to follow in this way of Jesus, where we lay something down, many of us, the thing that we're going to have to lay down is this sense that we've got to be busy all the time. That we've got to find the right things to do, as opposed to just more things to do. And when we find the right things, we've got to let go of some other things. We've got to lose a little bit so that we can gain. Most of us spend a good portion of our life just consumed with consuming, consumed with getting more, consumed with us having what we think we have to have. But being consumed with you will eventually consume you. We've got to live for something more than just our own consumption. Just our own schedule, just our own calendar, just our own needs, just our own wants. We've got to look past that, and Jesus invites us to follow him in such a way that we do that we take up a cause bigger than us. Arthur Brooks, in his book, Build the Life You Want, he talks about this study that was done back in 2020 in which they got these groups of people together and they gave them a challenge. They split them into 3 groups, and they had a moral deeds group. This group, they said, we want you to go out and do one nice thing for somebody that you don't even know. Just go do something nice for a complete and total stranger. Just go do this. That was the first group. And then the second group was the moral thoughts group. They said, as you're walking around today, everybody that you see, we just want you to think something nice about them. Oh man, that's a nice looking gentleman. That person looks very kind. They're doing great. Look at them out running. I should probably go running. Look at them out running. Go you. Think something nice about somebody, a moral thoughts group. And then the last group, they called the treat yourself group, right? You gotta say it like Tom from Parks and Recs, like, treat yourself. And they said, today we want you to only do things for yourself. If you want something, you go get it. You just go do what you want to do. And you know how this study turned out. They found that the moral deeds group reported much higher scores of well-being than the moral thoughts group, who reported much higher scores of well-being than the treat yourself group. Those who cared for others actively felt a greater sense of purpose in life, a sense of control than the others. And the results were clear and consistent, showing that focusing less on yourself and your desires actually makes your life better. Going back to John Gordon, he says this, that I believe that you have to have an ego to want to be great, but ironically, you must give up your ego and serve others in order to be great. Because serving always leads to purpose, and purpose is really the win for all of us. It's what we all long for and hope for. Some sense of purpose beyond just the day-to-day grind, some sense of purpose beyond just the calendar and the checklist and the things that I've got to get done today. We want something more, and Jesus invites us into it by taking up our cross daily and following Him into a place where we get to serve and love others, the people that Jesus loves. Which is everybody you bump into. Jesus says those who want to save their life have to lose a bit of it. Because if you only live for yourself, you'll only have yourself to show for yourself. And so we've got to get beyond ourselves. And realizing that losing a little bit of ourselves, losing a little bit of those things that we might want in order to gain something more in the world matters. I don't know if you remember the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. Some of you weren't even born yet. That's okay. But the indelible image from the 1992 Barcelona Olympics is this one right here. This is a picture of sprinter Derek Redmond from England. He had won the heats in the 400, had posted the fastest time by far. I don't know if you remember seeing the video of this, but in the final of the 400-meter sprint, Redmond took off and he was in the lead until the first straightaway, where he tore his hamstring and crumpled to the ground. Everybody else kept going. And Redmond struggled to get up and hobble a little further before falling to the ground again. And out of the crowd, you saw this man coming with all of his dad vibes. High socks, white shoes, just do it hat. You knew it was a dad immediately. Jim Redmond fought through security to get to his son, picked him up and carried him across the finish line. Derek didn't win the race, but he won something so much greater. In fact, if you scroll down in the video footage of this event on any media platform, what you'll see is people commenting this: I have no idea who won that race that year, but I will never forget that moment. There's something bigger than just winning for ourselves. 20 years later, Jim Redmond, dad, was selected to be one of the torchbearers during the 2012 games in London. When asked about this moment, his response was so simple and yet so profound. He said, "I saw my son having a problem, and I had to help. I saw my son having a problem, and I had to help." For a lot of us, finding a greater sense of purpose just means that problem that we see in the world is an invitation to step in, to give up something of ourselves, what we might want to walk on by, to keep going, to not worry about the problems, and to instead engage, to lose a little bit of our time, resources, to be about something bigger than ourselves. I told you I was in some schools last week, and one of the schools we got to visit with was Lawrenceville Elementary School, and I was talking to Miss Haynes, who's the principal over there, and she said, "Big news." She said, "We're number one." I said, "That's great." And she said, "We're the number one school and the most kids on free and reduced lunch in the county." That's your neighborhood. That's my neighborhood. That's our neighbors. That's our community. She said this, I thought this was so good. She said, I told all our teachers that we're number one in this. But we're not going to pity this reality. We're going to let it provide purpose for our year. I'm going to push a little bit if I can. A lot of us here today are more worried about the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games than we are about the fact that kids in our community don't have what they need to be successful in school. Jesus doesn't say, "If any of you want to be my defenders, take to social media." Jesus says, "If any of you want to be my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." Because following him into a way of living for transformation in our world transforms the world around us. And if you want to see things change, if you want to see change take place, the change that you want to see is the change that you have to be. You've got to be in it to win it for something bigger than yourself. And some of you in here are thinking to yourselves, "Wow, I know where this is going. Like, this is like the volunteer push for the year. Like, this guy wants something from us." You're not wrong about this being the volunteer push, but I want something for you. I want you to see a bigger world, to see possibilities, to lay down something so that you get so much more. Jesus invites us into a way of true life that involves giving ourselves away. This is all about loss framing and gain framing. We gain so much more when we give ourselves for others. When we choose to lose so that Jesus wins. In our church, in our community, in our schools, culture at large. I want to make a difference. It's not about having the loudest voice. It's about finding those places to serve.